Hot news opinion: the Supreme Court just ended my military career. The New York Times. The justices chose not to protect the rights of transgender patriots like me. By Bryn Tannehill. Ms. Tannehill is a former naval aviator and a defense analyst. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court, 5-4, that the Trump administration could reinstate its policy barring most transgender people from serving in the military, while several cases challenging the policy are being decided, pending the outcome of several pending cases. The decision was: I graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1997, and was on active duty for over a decade. When I began the problem was that at the time, the military's medical regulations prohibited transgender people from serving. I then set off. In 2015, the Department of Defense stopped discharging people for being transgender and began the open and transparent process of researching how to institute an inclusive policy. This included by 2016, a policy was in place for transgender people already serving. 2 years later, over the past year, I've had countless medical and psychological exams in my quest to return to the job I was trained to do, flying Black Hawk helicopters. This involved a lot. I was hoping against hope, throughout this process, that I'd be able to join my friends who had fought alongside me for the right to serve openly. Nearly every week, all of this makes the administration's dogged attempt to undo everything achieved over the last few years even more baffling. The ban was developed. No one, including the lawyers for the Trump administration, has been able to show that inclusion of transgender service members, or providing care to them, has had any measurable negative impact on morale, readiness, or unit cohesion. The Chiefs of Staff. The Supreme Court decision isn't about me, though. It isn't even while it is true that the High Court's decision is not final, and that, in fact, it may have had more to do with lower court injunctions against Mr. Trump's policy, rather than the policy itself. The signal it sends is clear. The cruel, pointless. Their decision signals a weakening of any shelter transgender people might find under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court is saying, for me, however, it probably marks the end of almost 10 years of trying to find a way to serve my country in uniform again. The court also if this were through some failing of mine, I could accept it. But it speaks for is a former naval aviator and a defense analyst who has researched and written about transgender issues. Follow the New York Times opinion section on, and
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.